Right, here we are on Monday afternoon, and we're going to see the man in the mirror. The man in the mirror and the man in Donegal. Pat McCart, how are you today, Pat?
I'm grand, Jude. Just to fill you in on the weather update, it's absolutely Baltic. I said the last day it was Baltic, but I'm now adding more to it. Jeepers, it's freezing. There's a wind that would actually skin you this morning out there.
Brass monkey, but Baltic.
Oh, absolutely, Jude. I know not only is it cold, but there's a wind chill factor. I'm serious.
Like, I was out for a walk earlier on, and the sun was shining, but boy, you could just feel it slicing into your face,
Absolutely, and I see someone up in the high ground. I live in a shown, and there's a lot of high ground, and I see wee bits of snow lying. And now that's some of it from the last time.
I was thinking if the snow did come, it would definitely lie. In fact, I was wondering if it wasn't too cold for snow. The way it gets.
Well, that's a famous one. It's too cold for snow. My mother used to say that as well. Yeah. Well, it's definitely too cold for something, but it's anyway.
Okay, having settled all the meteorological problems of the world, let's address some of the political ones. The first story I wanted to talk about is this incident, and everybody's talking about it, the police. That is the PSNI. And as you know, there was this memorial service for the people who were killed in Sean Graham's bookies back in 1992 or something, I think.
And I think it's 29th anniversary. I think it was.
29th anniversary. And they have this every year, and they've got little plaques up in the wall and flowers and so on. And the police, the PSNI, for whatever reason, stopped and came over and got into an altercation with them, or the crowd got into an altercation with them. Some salty words were exchanged, and it ended up with one of the survivors of the attack, who had been shot several times, being handcuffed and taken away and arrested. And he's been since released, and the chief constable has apologized and so on. But I see it's filling the talkback slot this morning or this afternoon, that they're saying, is this a crisis or what is it? Well, what do you think yourself, Pat? Is it overblown? Is it a constitutional crisis, as somebody termed it?
I think Simon Byrne said that's one of the problems. No, the optics of it were unbelievably bad. And there's no doubt about it that there's a perception in the nationalist community that the PSNI are slipping back to the old ways. Now, maybe that's unfair, but that's the reality of it. And earlier in the week, there was a clear video seen by many people of the police in East Belfast staying back and doing nothing while masked men actually were seen on the streets.
You mustn't be too hard on masked men. Everybody's masked these days.
No, but there's a difference between a medical mask and a paramilitary one, as anybody who's lived in Northern Ireland knows.
The one I have now is black, and I don't know if you could distinguish it from the paramilitary one or not.
Well, these guys were slightly. It was more like a uniform than a medical mask. So, and the police were clearly in evidence and did nothing. So the perception, Northern Ireland perception is everything. The perception clearly was that the PSNI treated one group one way and another group another way. And by the way, Jude, this sensitivity is a big thing. This was a legitimate commemoration of a very sad event. The people there weren't marching. They weren't intimidating anybody. They weren't there to sort of make a political point. They were remembering the dead. And for the PSNI to come out like that, it was ridiculous. And how it turned out the way it did, the guy they arrested, his brother-in-law was shot, and he was shot 7 times himself. Yeah. And what apparently he had in his hands was a wreath that I think his granddaughter or his daughter had given him to place on the grave of her uncle. You sort of go, good merciful God. Like, if you want to send out the wrong signal at a very sensitive time, here goes.
It does seem very ham-fisted, I must say. Like, I'm trying to picture the scene. So the police are driving in their Jeep or whatever down the Ormeau Road. They must, I think the plea was that 2 of the constables involved were just recent recruits. But it still wouldn't matter, I think. I mean, presumably they're qualified policemen. So they should have been taught at least one thing. If you're patrolling Ormeau Road and passing the bookies, you must know the history of the Sean Graham's bookies massacre. I can't understand that they would look at this people. I think they went in there on the grounds that this was breaking the COVID gathering rules. But, I mean, as you say, there's a way of doing these things. If they really felt there was a danger, They should have stopped their jeep a bit further back, and one of the policemen should have got up and just said to him, okay, guys, make sure you observe. They don't want to interfere with your grief or your commemoration.
Your commemoration, exactly.
Try to keep the distances that we're encouraged to do. But it has blown up into essentially a unionist versus a Republican thing. The chief constable has apologized and has said he has transferred one of the men and has suspended another one.
Yeah.
But again, it's the damage has been done. You see, you're getting these words. These are good words, and I applaud the chief constable for saying them. But the trouble is, it's been done, and what people will remember will not be so much the chief constable's words, but they'll remember the scene of the guys of effing and blighting these policemen.
Yeah, but here's the other thing, Jude. What a lot of unionists won't get. This is creating difficulties for Sinn Féin, no matter what. Let's be honest. Sinn Féin sold this whole idea of new policing, and you can imagine in places like the Bogside and Derry and West Belfast, these guys, the dissident republics, who are quite strong in Derry, in places like that, who will be walking down and saying, "Hey, this is what they sold us, that it was new policing. Hey, just watch that video. Take your own evidence." It's allowed. If you watch the Republicans in America trying to tell people that there wasn't really a riot at the Capitol building, your own eyes tell you, wait a minute, that's not what happened. Well, look, all you have to do is say to the people in regard to the Graham's Bookie commemoration, just watch the video. Now, I presume there's quite a few people will be whispering in a young fella's ears this evening and the days to come. Hey, just watch the video and don't take my word for it.
Well, I think it even be more widespread than that. I think there'd be a lot of nationalists, not people who would be leaning towards dissidents, but who would be saying, policing was at the heart of the problem in the first place in the days of the civil rights. In fact, you could argue that policing was the trigger that started off the whole thing. And therefore, it was very important to get it right, and hence the fact that the RUC was abolished, hence the invention of the PSNI. And I think we've talked about this before. In the early days, the PSNI couldn't have been nicer. But there has been a change. I think, detect a change in manner or something compared to how they were at first. Now, maybe that's because they feel they're under threat from attack, or I'm not sure what. But anyway, that was a PR disaster. The best you could say for that was it was a PR disaster. And maybe the worst you could say it was a failing of failure of policing.
Absolutely, Jude. Talking about ham-fisted, good God, if you wanted to send out a message to say how not to police. Now, Jude, I'm not an idiot, and I'm not sitting here saying the police don't have a very difficult job. There's 2 or 3 factors at play here. There's the whole constitutional thing. There's the COVID thing. There's the you keep going. There's 2 divided communities, and what one sees what the other are doing, and all of it. And they have to factor in all those sort of things. But having said that, Jude, a commemoration, people not threatening in any shape or form to go in. And by the way, the chief constable, he made the decision after seeing body cam footage, so something we haven't seen. So I presume he made the decision after seeing it. It must have been fairly heavy duty action by the 2. So without prejudging it, you're presuming that anyway. So Jude, it was a disaster, and it's opened up the whole thing again about policing, and it's going to rumble for another while.
Yeah, and I noticed that the DUP were on the talkback, and they're taking up the point, that we can't condemn these people until we see what the circumstances were. So the whole thing has been converted into, we're 100% behind the police. We're very critical of the police, 2 sides.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to a more elevated plane now, and look at something spiritual. Songs of praise. I know that's one of your favorite programs of a Sunday evening, Pat. You're known to sit, sometimes to kneel, in fact, and watch it. But the one that's got the attention, of course, is the one where there was a sort of a competition, an all-black competition.
A gospel singing competition, yeah.
Gospel singing. Gospel singing is great, in my opinion. I think it's really marvelous. But did you see these songs of praise, Pat?
No, I didn't, Jude. No.
Did you see clips from it?
I saw, exactly.
I'm the same as you. I saw clips from it. And what was Gregory Campbell, you see, has said, tweeted that this was all blacks, and if it had been an all white songs of praise, oh God, there would have been hell to pay. but because it was all black, everybody had to say, "Oh, fantastic, fantastic." Would you say you had a point there?
No, Jude, he definitely did not. I don't know why Gregory does that. I actually like Gregory. I get on very well, have done for years. But he comes out with stuff every so often, and I don't know what. There must be 2, 3 Gregory Campbells because the one I know is not the same one as I want. Jude, to come out, look, it came across as race baiting, no matter what way you come. He said the contestants were black, the judges were black, even the presenter, he says, was black.
Weren't they though? Weren't they black?
Yeah, but Jude, I don't know where you or I've been. If you've been watching the BBC for this last 50 years, there have been many shows where the contestants are all white, the judges were all white, and the presenters were all white. So this was a gospel singing competition where I presume the main contestants were sort of congregational type Baptist type churches, and the main singers were black. Big deal.
But Jeffrey's point was that
not Jeffrey, Gregory's,
that they were all black, and if it had been all white, that there would have been ructions. Was he not right?
No, he's not at all. All he was interested in was the color of their skin. That had nothing to do with it. It's the way the program.
Skin is the first thing that hits you whenever you see them. No,
it wouldn't. I'm as much a racist as anybody else. But I wouldn't have had a problem with it whatsoever. I am not in the least bit interested. Like, you see, if I hear somebody singing a gospel song, like, I really don't give a monkeys whether they're black, white, or see Tom Jones singing a gospel song. He brought out an album which was absolutely superb. So, hey, talk about a tone deaf statement.
I don't know. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, but wait a minute, Jude. Let's move on. But hey, the DUP have a sort of a bit of a track record, and you always get the impression these are not very subtle sort of meat being thrown out to certain groups of supporters. Like, remember Buddy Collar's famous one about crocodiles. Unions. Remember John Taylor? Though he's not a member of the DUP's official unions, he referred to Leo Varadkar as the Indian. And then, of course, he also referred to Kamala Harris as the Indian as well. And and then Gregory's the one about the Irish language, curry my yogurt. It's all thrown out as these sort of cultural wee sneers and sniping at other people's.
I agree with you, Pat, that there is that strand or that sort of streak in the DUP. They're happy to have a bash at any minority that they see or feel inside themselves as being inferior to them. But I mean, you say it wouldn't matter to you if you saw what color people's skin was if they were singing a gospel song. Well, I think it would matter to me because gospel songs were essentially, it's a difference between, say, an American singing an Irish song and an Irish person singing an Irish song. I mean, it's integral. We used to call it when I was kids, Negro spiritual songs. They are black songs written by black people for black people, about black people, and therefore it made sense that they should be black. And I noticed that, and if they were white, I would say, what the hell's going on here?
But you know what? Something. There's a certain element of truth in what you're saying, but I wouldn't make an issue of it. Like, next week there'll probably be most of the judges will be white, and a lot of the singers will be white. Like, to make the comment purely because the people were black, that's the issue. If it was done every week, for a sort of a woke generation, this was a one-off program. Jude, I've never seen a program where everybody was all black and so on. So it's not exactly commonplace.
Well, maybe it was a contrast. I noticed the contrast. This is just the clips of it now that I saw. It seemed to me so unlike the traditional songs of praise, which was always, very white and quiet in the evening and inside a church and so on. Whereas this looked more like I don't know.
But Jude, hold on. Gregory's point is this was the BBC Black Lives Matter mode. He was basically saying this was them playing to the Black Lives Matter people. He was the one who raised this, not anybody else.
Every time, Pat, to deal with this question was slightly wider, which is this question of how they, in all the dramas on Netflix and in all other places, black characters are black actors are being introduced into roles where they don't really, you normally wouldn't fit. I think there was, you mentioned the Queen of England being presented as black.
Yeah, I was Bridgerton, I think it's the thing called. Over Christmas, Jude, there are many long days, and myself and my dear wife sat down. Now, I thought it was ridiculous at the start because I thought, is somebody taking the piss here? The Queen being black, But Jude, you got it after a while. I forgot totally about it. And it was just basically they were saying that this program is color neutral, and some of the lords were black as well. And Jude, after a while, I know you're going to say historically this wasn't accurate. But Jesus, so much. Hey, all Indians weren't good, and John Wayne wasn't. John Wayne was the same. We suspend disbelief on plenty of other things, so we can do it here with the color of somebody's skin.
You could carry that to a terrible extreme, though.
Of course, you could.
You could say, well, people who are handicapped are having, if that's the word, disadvantaged, say physically incapacity. That you haven't enough people in wheelchairs, so you make, the Duke of Wellington into a guy in a wheelchair. I just find it maybe I can't make up my mind whether it is that it actually is ham-fisted way to show, look, we're colorblind.
Yeah, there's an element of that.
Or whether it's actually just that I'm not used to it. The way that people find it hard to accept immigrants because they're not used to them. And when they begin to get used to them, then they see common sense.
Yeah. Well, someone did see at the start when sports programs had black analysts, like people like Ian Wright. I remember at this time, I regard Ian Wright as probably the best, and the most entertaining analyst on. But you weren't used to it at the start. It was all white. It was all your Bobby Charltons, your Bobby Moores, Gary Linekers, and you keep on going. Now you regularly see black guys as analysts, and by the way, even worse. Women.
I was going to say, you read my thoughts, Pat. I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the way that women are in many cases the chairperson at these post-match discussions, or they're down at the pitch side giving their views or whatever, on football, that is. What are your thoughts there?
This is where I lose the women.
You're afraid to open your mouth, aren't you?
No, but someone like, you see somebody who's never played at that level, who's never been involved, and probably doesn't even know what the offside rule is, presenting a program and going, Jude, I am 67, so I am not used to this. I think my children won't even notice.
That's probably true. I think that's the same with me. I find the women in sort of positions of, very often the main presenter for a football game, it does seem to be a bit off, because the fact is that great footballers traditionally have been, or footballers generally have been males rather than females. But as you say, maybe it's a question of getting used to it. And why wouldn't they? I mean, there must be quite a few women are actually interested, or even very good judges of football.
Yeah, but just as changing. Like, I remember going years ago, and I mean years ago, maybe 40 years, to a women's football match, and it was pathetic. I watched a football match there quite recently, probably last year. It was, I think, the Women's World Cup. Jesus, Jude, the standard of football has gone up a hell of a lot.
I watched it.
It's people like me who are it.
It was terrific.
Some of it was terrific. So,
really
like
good.
the fault is mine, not theirs. Like, that's the reality.
That's true. That's true. Okay, you and I will become. We'll go back.
We're dinosaurs, Jude.
Dinosaurs, exactly, and we'll have to be shot or else sent back to get proper training.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Speaking of being shot, this was a shot out of the blue. I saw in the papers this morning, I can't believe my eyes, and Micheál Martin has had a conversion. He has
the road to Damascus.
And the road to Damascus. Suddenly, you remember after the election and before the election, himself and Leo Varadkar were continually explaining that they weren't going to talk to Sinn Féin because Sinn Féin wasn't a normal party, and he just was a non-starter. And fair play to them, they stuck to their guns. That's what they did, and they formed a coalition of Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Now, in today's Irish Times, there is a column which explains that Micheál Martin and 16 other Fianna Fáil TDs have said they would not have a problem with being in coalition with any party, and that includes Sinn Féin. Now, what is the reason for this conversion? Was it a bolt of lightning struck them from their horses, or what?
I think it was St. Paul on the road to Donalow or something. No, I think, Jude, let's get this clear. I would say Micheál Martin and the party, Parachicks, have looked at the polls, and I think being in coalition with Fine Gael is not doing them any great good. And Fine Gael is a very much a sort of Dublin unionist. Let's get that clear. It's not, that's a very unfair, but not 100 miles out. Now, Fianna Fáil are supposed to be a Republican party. Whatever view you have of Sinn Féin are sort of metamorphosizing into a sort of a more radical, more Republican version of the old Fianna Fáil. And you would think the symbiosis, or whatever's the word you'd like to use there, you know, they would be closer with Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin would be closer than Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. And I think the reality's hitting home to Micheál that Fine Gael are going to come out of this stronger when this is all over, rather than Fianna Fáil. And you know, I think they must start saying, "Hey, where are we headed?"
Yeah, you notice the number
of the words.
You notice the number of times that people make just a slip of the tongue and they talk about the Taoiseach as Leo Varadkar. Oh, I mean Micheál Martin.
Even Micheál Martin has made that mistake. On the Dáil one day, while speaking as the Taoiseach, he says the Taoiseach, and he looked over and then went, "Oh,
yeah." I think it's more than well, I suppose it is the fact that they are doing so badly in the polls, and by and large, most people are saying that Leo, or not Leo, but I'm doing it myself now. Micheál Martin is a bit of a disaster, actually, as Taoiseach, and there is a camp within Fianna Fáil that are really, I've been talking for some time about the fact that they wouldn't mind a change of leadership, and they're worried about the fact that Micheál Martin might lead them into the next election, and that might cost them their seat. And a lot of them are rallying around somebody well known to Miriam O'Callaghan, Jim O'Callaghan, her brother. And he's come out and said, he says, of course, definitely you're talking, that doesn't mean you're going to necessarily form a coalition, but you're definitely going to look at everybody.
Aye, but here's the other thing too, Jude. You know the old thing, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Micheál made a terrible balls up in the appointment of ministers. Like Norma Foley, who's basically, and don't mean this way, a non-entity in Fianna Fáil, given a big job. Helen McEntee, another lightweight, given a big job. Whereas a lot of the heavyweights, people like O'Callaghan, who was one of the negotiators for the deal, John McGuinness, guys who have great track records in Fianna Fáil and who were serious players, were totally ignored. Barry Coyne, he was chucked out, in fairness. But O'Callaghan was offered as the junior man. Now, O'Callaghan was one of the most successful senior counsels in Ireland, though, the equivalent of the QC. And he was offered the job as the junior justice minister to a woman who was a very junior solicitor. So, and she was going to be the minister. Like, quite clearly, he thought he was being humiliated, so he refused the job. But he's a serious player and he's a serious politician, and he is sitting there waiting. And I would say there's a lot of within Fianna Fáil. I remember Pat the Cope Galler, the local, well, one of our local TDs, saying he would have had no bother whatsoever going into into discussions with Sinn Féin, if they didn't work out. But he had no preconditions for going in. And I remember John McGuinness, and I remember what he called the guy, Dave Valera's son, whose name always just
Eamon
O'Keefe. He said he had no bother. So there, obviously, the sort of the path to Micheál's door has been well beaten by people saying, "Come on, Micheál, get your finger out."
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the two things, isn't it? That they're slipping so badly in the polls, and there's this pressure from within. And actually, it's a very good day for Irish politics, I think. That they're finally saying they're looking at Sinn Féin in terms of their policies.
Yeah.
As to whether they even think about going to the coalition with them. And that's the way it should be. But this dumbass stuff that they had where they say, no, Sinn Féin because it's a shadowy party and it's not like other parties. Give me a break, Give me a break.
Absolutely. Sure, when they said that some of the Fianna Fáil boys after the Civil War went into the Dáil with their guns under their coats. Like, let's not get too too sanctimonious here.
But that gets you back to the whole thing. I mean, there's no way.
I know we're not. We're not even going back there.
There's no way they're going to compare the past with the present.
No. That was a good old days.
I think that's nearly about it, except that I'll leave you with one final question. You have 10 seconds on it. What do you think of a knight of the realm leading the British Labour Party, Sir Keir Starmer? Which way is he leading them?
Yeah, Jude, I was reading a wee bit this morning. Hey, hey, I have two friends. They're English, and they are as conservative and as Tory and as right wing as you could get. Nice, lovely people, by the way. Don't get me wrong; they're good friends.
Some of my best friends are Tories.
Some of them, yes, some of them are black as well. But anyway, basically they said, "Oh, Sir Keir Starmer, we have a lot of time for him." That was for me. That was it. Two of the most Tory people that I know. Hey, if there's no distinction between the Tory party and Keir Starmer's Labour Party, there's no point in having a party, because I believed in the Labour Party that Jeremy Corbyn stood in, looking after working people, treating unfairness seriously, looking at legislating for, like, look at Amazon, Jude, making billions. Your man's making something like a couple of million a day, and he doesn't pay tax, and yet the divergence, the sort of between the rich and the poor, is growing, and the rights of the working people are getting hit every once. And Keir Starmer is moving the Labour Party to the right.
Well, here's the other side of that. I largely agree with you, actually, Pat. And very frankly, Sir Keir Starmer suggests he's part of the establishment. But on the other hand, a political party's always got to get the balance right. They've got to have principles they really believe in. But if they're in politics, they're in politics to make progress in politics.
Yeah, and get elected. I accept that.
Get elected. So I suppose it's this thing of getting votes and retaining your principles. And they feel that, all right, Jeremy Corbyn certainly stuck by his principles, but in the end, he came out of that election, the entire Labour Party was damn near obliterated. So you could argue that case. Frankly, my view would be that there's I was going to say a cabal, but there's a very heavy layer within the Labour Party that has always been Blairite in its line, that never really was a Labour Party. It was a middle-class party. And Sir Keir Starmer, with his knighthood, typifies it, really.
Yeah. Well, someone, Corbyn, not only had he to take on the Murdoch Empire and the BBC and all, every program he was portrayed as this left-wing loony and all, but there was also serious infighting in the Labour Party. A lot of internal sort of disinformation being thrown out. And there was a report, I remember done, I think it was the BBC, said there was one guy, quite senior official, said it was worth losing a couple of elections to ensure the ideology of Corbyn didn't take over the Labour Party. That's the sort of attitude of those within the party to ensure.
That's the dismaying thing, that kind of opposition is coming from within the party. From the day when he got elected, remember the very beginning? Such a shock. Here's a guy who's actually a socialist. We laugh at the Americans, that they're so scared of socialism. They're scared stiff in the Labour Party in Britain.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jude, I don't buy this theory. I think had Corbyn got a unified party working together, and I think a lot of British people are crying out for a Labour Party that stands for, once again, for working people, not the Tory Party light and the Boris Johnson Bullington Club who look after the super rich and to hell with the rest.
Pat, come the revolution, there'll be a few of those guys up against the wall, and I'll send you in to sort them out. Okay, Pat.
Good luck, Jude.
All the best.